Hey, I'm Kim.
And I'm Poncho, and you're listening to Now That You See It, a show that will ruin you for boring conversations forever.
It's about the invisible stuff that shapes how we think and connect, those, oh, wait, what? Moments that change how you perceive the world around you.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Hey friends, guest episode. Woohoo.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so excited. Julie, thank you for joining us. I know Julie through the community here in kind of the Reno Tahoe outdoor community, and Julie's doing really cool stuff out in the world on, the side of being a mom and kind of redefining what people think about when they think of somebody stepping into motherhood. So I'm super stoked to have you join us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Excited. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
pumped. I'm pumped to talk about badass mom stuff on the podcast. We haven't done that yet. This is great. That's cool.
Yes.
And I have to say, like, it's the world I swim in. And generally, the podcast is such a nice break from the world I swim in because, like, I interact with so many moms and like female identified people all the time. And so this is like, it's usually I'm like, oh, what a break. And this feels like the break from the break, integrating my my world too into this. So this is awesome. I'm pumped. Good. So Julie, what is the thing you can't unsee?
So for me, the thing I can't unsee is the identity shift that comes with motherhood and the box that society tends to put moms in. I am the founder of the Mothership Collective, and our goal is to be a community that empowers moms to not let motherhood shrink who they are, but let them expand and become even more of who they are, the things they love, etc.
Way more of that.
I'm curious so you said you founded the Mothership Collective. I'm curious what that process was like for you, moving into this chapter of your life where you're a mom. And at what point did you realize, okay, well, this is a thing that's needed out in the world. Here's the need. Here's what I think could meet that need. Can you tell us a little bit more about that whole process?
Sure. So I think for me, it really started back to like before I even got pregnant, the fear of what does becoming a mom mean for me? Am I ready to be mom when I love adventuring, the outdoors, and dancing till 2 a.m., all the things. And that shifted into me being pregnant and being one of the first of my friend group to have a kid. And for me, when I was pregnant, I felt like being on my mountain bike, being on the mountain while I had a belly made me feel so empowered. And so, me at a time when my body was feeling out of control and changing, and you're having all the classic pregnancy anxieties and doing the things that made me feel like me was everything. And so I would spend all this time Googling online, like, okay, are there people who are 6 months pregnant and mountain biking still? Couldn't find anything. And so I was just listening to my body, listening to my intuition, and doing the things that lit me up. And as I was going through pregnancy, I was kind of like, I wonder if I should make this, at the time I was calling it the Hot Mom Club, because I I just felt like this hot goddess when I was on my mountain
Yes.
and growing life and still pursuing these activities. So that's what it was in my head. And I kind of let it fizzle because I had a child. And in my fourth trimester postpartum, it came back up for me when I was really struggling with the subtle way I was viewing myself and becoming a mom and what that meant for me, and honestly struggling with postpartum depression and a lot of the things that come with the fourth trimester. And when I got back to work, I was pretty burnout. And I remember sitting with my friend and she said to me, "Remember the Hot Mom Club? Like, what happened to that dream?" And it was our friend Keegan, Poncho knows. And that sparked something in me again. This was last April, 2025. And I was like, you're right. Like, this is it for me. I want to empower more women to do motherhood the way they want to do it. If they want to go take their 6-month-old backpacking, let's have a trip report on our blog. If they want to know if you can still surf at 6 months pregnant, let's have someone share an experience and just have this library and wealth of experience, because I think sharing those stories is where empowerment really happens.
Mm.
And so it kind of happened for me overnight. All of a sudden, I was learning how to code a website. I have a decade of marketing experience, which was very helpful in this situation. But in a matter of 3 months, I was working till the wee hours of the night and building this collective, and launched it in June. And it's becoming a lot of things. It's a private community chat, it's live events in person, it's the blog and storytelling, and I'm excited to see what it turns into next.
What has it done for you? So I'm hearing, you were in your fourth trimester and you were struggling. How has it made a difference in your life?
It's hard to even put that into words.
Wow.
For me, it pulled me out of a place of not feeling like myself, and to be surrounded constantly by so many women who are feeling the same way and are out there doing things with their kids. They're out there pregnant, doing what they love. It's so inspiring. And my husband will attest to this. He'll walk in and I'm just like absolutely bawling at my desk, because the messages I'm getting from moms on a daily basis are just like so beautiful. Like, people are reaching out saying, I never saw myself represented online. Like, oh my gosh, I read this blog and it made me feel so empowered. Um, just getting that feedback and having those conversations is like, it keeps me going, it fuels me, and it really makes me feel like the mothership needs to be here. um,
Yeah. Hell
yeah,
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
You know, one thing that is just occurring to me is, so when I was pregnant with twins 9, 10 years ago, I remember I'm a super data person. I love science. At the time, I've had a real addiction to clear answers. Like, tell me the answer. What is my limit? Because I will go up to that limit, but what is the limit? And they were like, just feel your body. And I was like, I don't have a body. I don't know what you're talking about. I need numbers, my friends. Like, how many pounds? How many heart rates? What do I need to do?
Show me the
And yeah. And it was mind boggling to me how like little information there was. And like two things came out of that just reminded me. One is like, okay, I do have a body. I can trust it. I can listen to it. And they don't effing know, because they don't effing know. They haven't tried to know, because women's pregnant bodies have not been studied. And not that we need to be lab rats, but like, we haven't been studied at all. Like, always exempt from all the studies and getting people in. And so like, what do we have besides brave, courageous people who are willing to be like, I'll go rock climbing, take a picture of me, study me, because I'm willing to do it. So like, thank you, because this is the data. These are the data we have been waiting for.
Yes, I so agree. And I recently saw that someone was putting out a survey, a questionnaire asking, did you snowboard and ski pregnant? What was your experience? How far along were you? Like, there's some groups out there who are trying to get that data, but
Mm.
it's hard to find, I'm sure.
Really hard to find, and really hard to make it to the OBGYNs who, God bless them, right? This is an old body of knowledge that trickles down.
Mhm.
And like, who's going to say like, oh, it's safe to snowboard because, they don't want to take the risk. But
Right.
it's just so empowering to see like, okay, and you can make your own choices. This is not like, I don't know, of all the risky things to do. You keep
Totally.
going.
And I think for me on our blog, I always ask people who share an experience that they've had, that they give a list of tips, things that they modified for pregnancy, because I think that's that's one of the most important things that people fail to understand is that, and where the judgment comes from, I think, is that people don't see the shift in how these pregnant women are moving and behaving. Like they're not mountain biking the same way that they would mountain bike not pregnant. Same with any other activity. Like these women who are choosing to do those activities are moderating their risk. They're making smart choices. And I think that's one of the key issues for me is not trusting that the woman knows bounds and experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like binary black or white thinking about like either you're doing it like you've always done it and it looks just this one way, or you're not doing it at all. There's no wiggle room to find another way of doing it that is more adequate to being somebody who is pregnant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you notice, Julie, about some of the most common ways people modify?
So it really depends on the activity, but I've seen, I'm not a climber myself, but from the climbing shoot, like the gal that is climbing pregnant, she's wearing a full body harness. I know for one gal who just put out a story about snowboarding pregnant, she specifically called out not feeling safe in the resort, so she only backcountry snowboarded for her pregnant season. For me, mountain biking, I switched out my pedals so I wasn't clipped in. I made sure I stayed at the back of the pack if it was a group ride, because I know myself and I know I would push myself really hard if I was in the front. Yeah, there's so many small ways in which you can manage risk and make things accessible for yourself.
It's one of the things I remember doing is, I mean, like there's less space, there's less oxygen for your lungs are small, like everything is just like there's not, and you have to pee all the time. I mean, it's just so annoying. But one of the things I remember needing to do is I could feel that, is it relaxin? Is that the hormone that like makes everything so you just can get injured so much faster because like you turn into Gumby, like everything's moving around and you can really like twist an ankle real fast, blow at a knee like that. And I remember being like, I'm clumsy to begin with. To be careful, like really careful towards the end. Yeah. And just like I'm a rower. And so you can't, like, you just can't. You can't get
Yeah.
up to the catch
And
anymore.
it's like it's good to hear like you know yourself. And so like
Yeah.
you understood your limitations and like what was off limits for you during pregnancy and like that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pancho, were you going to say something? You're going to jump in.
I mean, I'm thinking about how it is inevitably an identity shift. Like there's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
And how it's an identity shift I won't ever be able to understand from a first person perspective. But just thinking about how much momentum there is working against you to hold on to certain aspects of your identity that are really important to you when one, your body's changing. So you're like, fuck, like I can't do what I used to be able to do. And it's really easy to go, I just can't do what I used to be able to do at all. Your body's changing also from a hormonal perspective. So again, like I'm very fortunate that I have a body that doesn't have hormonal fluctuations like,
Every
your
day, that
bodies do.
testosterone.
Like
Going in, going out.
I guess yeah, like I have gnarly I got to deal with testosterone through puberty, and that was, a challenge unto itself. And I nearly died many times because of that. But it's different, right? Like I don't have to deal with so to have your body change in terms of like the shape of who you are, the amount of weight you have to carry, the way your body responds to physical stress and injury, the way that you feel emotionally, and probably the impacts it has on how you think. So just like you're going crazy to some degree. It feels like you're so dysregulated. And then on top of that, you have like society and culture being like, you're not you anymore. You're now like, we're gonna like give you the hi, my name is like sticker on your chest, and it just says mom. you know, like you get to
Oh,
conform to generic motherhood. So you have all of
so are
that
you
working
sure you're
against
not a
you.
mom? I mean, well,
Where do you like so yeah, I'm like sitting with the enormity of that shift in identity and how carefully you have to do it. And like I'd seen the Mothership Collective Instagram, I'd like I see what you're doing, Julie. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But just now it's hitting me like how powerful that could be for somebody who is living through that and challenged with navigating identity.
Yeah, it's a lot, as you described, emotionally, physically, um, and to be honest, like, Kim, I don't know if you feel this way, but I'm, 2.5 years since my postpartum days, and I still struggle with how my body has changed. It's, dumping snow in Tahoe right now. Daycare is canceled. Haven't really been able to snowboard this week, and I have crazy cabin fever. I totally cried last night, feeling like, man, a couple years ago, I would have been out there all day. And I think it's it's something that, parents, both moms and dads, they both are going to deal with that for a long time, that shift. It's not something that is like after a couple months you're used to it. It's something you are constantly evolving and sitting with.
Yeah.
yeah. Have you read or heard about the book Matrescence?
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
Read it. It's and like the summary is like, this is a period of life, like puberty, menopause, like this equivalent, and we have just been like, it's fine. Don't call it anything. Nothing, nothing to see here. But like the level of like shift from hormones, equivalent to these two other periods that happens in this time period, it's the same. And we've just been like, it's normal. It's just nothing to see before, after, prenatal, post. It's all the same. But no, the really a beautiful, beautiful book arguing persuasively that we are missing the boat on naming this period of life as a distinct biological, um, like, and physiological phenomenon, and like neurobiological, hormonal, like the whole everything changes and shifts in this period by design. It's supposed to. Like, these hormones are supposed to make us more vigilant. We're supposed to be threat detecting. We're supposed to be closing around, looking for like, and then looking also for support and villaging. And then when we don't get it, it feels even deeper of a loss than pre. We're forming a brand new identity. Like everything has changed. And so when we, not just like with the, now I feel like I'm telling you about literally the reason you're on the podcast, but like plus one to everything you've said, when we are living in an atomized society, it's not just like, oh, this is hard because like neighbors down the block, or like a family is in separate states, and yeah, that is hard. It's like hard biologically because we are very much wired to go through this period seeking more of that, and we are left with far less. And so thank God for things like the Mothership, which are like not just seeking to stand in for that webbing, but also to expand the visible options of how people can be both during pregnancy and in motherhood. So like, at least psychologically, you feel less alone,
Yes.
which is part of half the battle.
I think also something you touched on is like so many people are living away from their families these days. And like generations ago, you had live in, aunts and your mom and your grandma and everybody that was your village. And so many of us don't have that like built in familial support where we are. And so the mothership, as I've seen, like anytime we have a video that goes viral or people start noticing us, the amount of DMs I get that are like, where do I find my mothership? Like, where do I find my people? You can tell that like people, especially new moms, are just craving being those like-minded women. Yeah, it's so important.
Pancho. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm really.
Yeah, I do. It comes back to like this concept of community and identity. The two things that are coming to mind for me is one, Kim, you said that sense of loss is even worse when you don't have community. So loss, when you lose something that's really important, it needs to be grieved. And everything we know about the process of grieving is you got to do it with support from outside of yourself. So having community, whether it's family, friends, somebody to be there and support you and that, give you comfort. Because that's really what grief needs is comfort. Um, but then also on the flip side of that, thinking to a lot of the work, like Atomic Habits, James Clear brings the idea that if you want to establish new habits, go find the people that habitually do those things and become a part of those circles. And then it becomes a part of your identity because you are part of that group of individuals. And to conform, to feel like you belong, you take on those behaviors yourself. So I'm where my mind is going is like this serves two purposes, right? It serves the purpose of holding people in a container of community as they make that transition into a new identity, that inevitable transition. But it also allows them to land on the other end of that transition, having held on to certain parts of their identity that they don't want to let go of. And that community is almost like the anchor they need to hold on to it.
I love that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like, even for women who, you're recovering from birth, maybe you had a really tough pregnancy, you totally drifted away from the things you love doing. It's like the pilot light is on for you. And like when you're ready to cook and like get back out there, the community is here and like showing you that it's possible. And even if that takes years, it's like you can still reclaim that part of yourself. And like, just as you're not necessarily mountain biking right now, it doesn't mean you're not a mountain biker and that you won't come back to it.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it.
Yeah.
I'm curious about, so like these are all the things that were important for you to hold on to, right? Like being an outdoor adventurer, being a badass mom. What are the things that you did have to leave behind and then process the loss of?
That's a big one. I think one of the biggest things for me and my partner in parenthood is the struggle of we both get after it at the same level. And usually we're recreating together.
Uh,
And the challenge of navigating the like tit for tat mentality, like you went golfing for 6 hours on Saturday. That means I get to go on this backpacking trip on Sunday. Like the keeping tabs on like who's gotten time to recreate, that has been my own personal battle of letting that go and feeling happy for my partner that they're getting out and recharging and not feeling stuck with being at home and like reframing that in my mind as in like, okay, I'm getting amazing time with my daughter and my husband's coming back a better parent. This is like good for everyone. But just reframing that in my head, it's been definitely a struggle for me for 2 years at least.
Kim, you talk about default parenthood. I'm kind of hearing like, is that what being the default parent looks like?
It's interesting. I was talking to my cousin who was in California, and I do Marco Polos back and forth. And one of the things we were talking about recently is the endless fucking decisions of parenthood that you don't even know you're making. The depth of shadow decision making in parenthood is mind boggling. That is my most surprising part of parenthood. It's like, it's that example, but it's every fucking where.
Yeah.
Everywhere. It's that like deciding, do I like, how many hours was that in 15-minute increments? And like, how do I get that back? And what is a true equivalent? And then being like, when my kids were little and all the time. So if they're fighting, I'm like, do I intervene? And how do I intervene? Is this one of those times? And it's just like, and like, okay, can I afford a car nap or will that ruin my night? And like, okay, how much of a car? And just, you are calculating constantly, constantly. That like, when we talk about the mental load of parenting, I'd say 85% of it is just deciding whether to decide about decisions that you don't even know you're making. I mean, the decision train is endless. And so usually, like from a default parent perspective, you're both doing that, but one person has the map. Like one person's doing it more, one person's scanning a little bit more for like the different threats and just like sees the big picture because like somebody has to, and it just ends up usually being the mom for social cultural reasons, but also because of this hormone shift of like the changes in your hormones do make you more aware of what's out there because that is it's your biologically primed role. And so that is happening. And then like we compound it with all the social cultural messaging that like we've all been raised with for so long. And it's a perfect storm of like, these moms are effing exhausted and don't know why. Like, and they're like, but I took a nap. Why didn't I feel better? And you're like,
Yeah. Why am I still
I can
having a
tell you why. Yeah. And truly like, it just takes, it, when we were talking about exercise and blah, blah, and people talk about snapping back, physically. And I'm like, why haven't I snapped back? Oh, girl, like there's so much more to this game that your body needs to adjust to because it's going through this like massive shift of identity, of role, of like, how do I run this body in this life now? It's not just like, oh, I had a metabolic event called growing a baby and now it's done. And so I will unmetabolic event myself. It's like, no, the metabolic event is very much still in process
Oh yeah.
for many years. It's fascinating. Like, so
I think it's 2 years. Or I read that it was 2 years for your body to physically recover from pregnancy and birth.
best case scenario, if you're sleeping, which like maybe, but
Yeah.
the default parent thing is like carrying a lot of those little decisions. And also, there's all these like memes, like I get these memes online of the husband or somebody, it could be in a same-sex couple, but somebody being like, my wife talks about the mental load. And then she asked me about like, should we travel to Peru in 2028? Or like, are we going to go host Christmas with your family or mine in 2029? And you're like, and so there's this disconnect of like the folks in the relationship being like, I hear you. I understand you're overwhelmed. I really don't care about the things you care about. And like, how do we meet in the middle? It's my long-winded sassy answer to all of it.
Yeah, that is a conundrum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think the mom math, that term got really popular a couple years ago. And I think it was a lot of like fresh moms postpartum who are just like leaving the house when you're breastfeeding or just getting through a day.
Oh my God.
It's
backwards
It is
planning.
wild. Yes.
And let me tell you this though, like there's hope ahead. I got to my kids today at 1:00. The aquarium is 40 minutes away and it closed at 4. And I was like, yeah, we can do that. We didn't pack a damn thing. I was like, get in the car. We're going to the aquarium. And my friends, there is life after the diaper bag. Like you will not have to bring your entire house and spend like 10 minutes screaming with like somebody has diarrhea, maybe it's the kids at the zoo, and then come back and regret everything. Like it gets better. It's better. And they're just great. It's great.
I really appreciate hearing that. Even like the ecstasy I feel when I get to the car myself and just have like a water bottle and my wallet it's such a dream.
I know.
As a new
It gets
mom.
better.
Yeah.
Let's go to the aquarium.
Yeah.
Do you eventually get to the point where they can go in the bathroom and wipe their own butt without having to bring an entire diaper bag?
Theoretically. Yeah.
That's what the promised land people have been telling you about.
Yeah, it really happens. It's like, are you hungry? Bring snacks. Bring water. Like, that's on you, babies. I'm not me anymore. It's great. So there's this promised land. But Julie, one of the things that I think about often in this is grief. And I'm wondering, like, the grief of just like who you were before and like what you have to let go. So Pancha asked you about like what letting go, but like you're 2.5 years into it. How is your head game about the mom identity?
Mhm. I feel like my head game is pretty strong right now. It's feeling good. I will say I am pregnant again, and I'm
Well,
I'm reliving a lot of the old feels that came up for me. Um, but I will say it has been really strong. I will say I had a breakdown. We had like an amazing event on Saturday. We had like 75 people out to a ski resort, and everyone was in glitter and wigs and retro outfits, bunch of babies dancing. It was fabulous. But my husband offered to load the car for me, all the things, and I was like, I'm good. I don't need help. Ended up like straining something in my stomach, had sciatica, like all the things, and just ended up sobbing after the event, just thinking like, oh wow, that was humbling. And I'm entering this whole rigmarole again, which so grateful that I am, but it's crazy how you think you've mastered those feelings in the shift, but even going like from 1 to 2 kids, I know is going to be another grieving period of
yeah.
having less flexibility to trade off and do things and just being way more in it. But I will say genuinely, I feel like being a mom has made me like braver, stronger, louder, funnier, like all the things. I feel like motherhood has just made me more. And so I really appreciate it for those reasons. And I think it's like the most amazing experience I've ever gone through in terms of like a transformation as an adult.
Yes.
It's wild.
I want to, Pancha, I've got a question for you. And the sort of preface to it is building off of that. I thought about how like parenthood has been for 100% agree by far the most transformative experience and self-growth experience I've had. It doesn't you can't be passive in this experience. If this is gonna work in a positive direction, like you have to actively engage in like, oh, this is hard. I have been humbled. I hate this. What do I do with this? And like, as opposed to projecting that onto your kids and, you know, challenges ensue. You really have to, it breaks you down and it breaks you down, breaks you open in a beautiful way if you let it and engage with it. But it also made me think like, there are lots of things that can do that to people. Loss, death, identity shifts of all kind can be like, you don't have to be a parent to, it's not exclusive to parenthood that can do this to you. But the difference, and this is why, Pancha, I'm really curious about your perspective as like somebody who hasn't yet become a parent and may not become a parent, but who has been transformed by life and has allowed life to transform you. Parenting and death are, and I can't think of anything else that is like once you're a parent. And I was trying to like, what are the scenarios in which that might not be true? That identity shift is pretty permanent. And
Yeah.
I couldn't think of anything else that like, yes, other things transform you, but nothing like that is a committed decision. Once you're in it, you're in it. There's no changing it. Other transformations aren't necessarily that way. And I've been wrestling with this, like, there's no hierarchy, there's no moral judgment on it, but I think it has had the effect it's had on me because the boats have been burned. There's no going back. I'm a parent forever now,
Yeah.
you know? I don't know. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you're totally right. As you were talking, this is a super morbid thing to think, but I was like, well, what if your kids die?
I thought
I'm
that
like,
too.
that
And that's
happens
true.
for some people,
Mhm.
right? But
Yeah.
the immediate thought I had is, you're still a parent. You just
You're still a
become a
parent.
parent whose kids died, which is like putting both of those two things together,
Yes.
death and parenthood, like
Yeah.
extra hard mode, right? That's like you like, if you win that level of the video game on that difficulty, you made it. You couldn't have been much harder than that. So I think you're right in that. And I think back to what I've heard people say about parenthood, how it really is kind of like this packaged deal you can't get away from, where it constantly pushes you to either grow into a better version of who you are or allow your life to devolve into chaos.
Mhm. Yep.
And thinking that I may never get to do that, that I may not be a dad, part of me is like, "God, fuck, like, am I missing out on that?" And maybe I am. I'm not sure. The other one that comes to mind is having some other permanent thing that significantly alters who you are. So,
Mhm.
for example, if you have like an injury that permanently affects the way you're able to use your body. Let's say you have
Yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
spinal cord, you become
Yeah,
paralyzed,
yeah, yeah.
or you have a TBI that permanently affects your personality or your ability to, kind of operate in the world. Those come to mind as other irreversible kind of m- magnitude of, like the magnitude of that shift in identity is so undeniable that there's no going back. Um, and I don't know that I've had anything like that in my adult life. I think when I get hit by a car when I was 8 years old and almost died. I ended up with like an open compound fracture in my femur. My left tibia broke. Like riding my bike, car hits me. I fly up and over the car, landed on my face, and so like in low lighting conditions, you can see all the scars on my face
I didn't know
um,
that.
from having landed on my face on the asphalt. And at 8 years old, that was an experience that was similar, right? Where I went from being
Yeah.
this like little firecracker. I was literally like, Taz, the
Tasmanian devil.
cartoon character. Yeah, I was that as an 8-year-old little boy with, ADHD and a lot of unprocessed trauma that just came out in, like dysregulated behaviors and antisocial behaviors. And I went from that to being in a full body cast for 3 months in a hospital bed in the living room. And the only people I ever saw were my mom and my stepdad, and then my stepbrothers every other week. And that was my life for
Something.
8 months. That was the majority of me being 8 years old, was being in a bed in a living room. And the person I became on the other end of that was a different person than the person I was before, but not in adulthood. So I don't know what it would be like to have to deal with, I think as children, we're a lot more flexible in our identities because we do just become different people. Like almost every year, kids are becoming somebody else. I can't imagine what it'd be like to have to deal with that once my identity is kind of more solidified.
No matter what, it's an identity shaker. So
It's
like
what?
it's an identity shaker.
Oh yeah.
Something shook up in you from that has made you who you are today in some part. For
Did
sure.
that experience make you more cautious in terms of like your outdoor pursuits?
No, because like I said, I was a little boy with testosterone. So the risk management, like that whole side of things, nothing changed. Like the moment my head was back in my body, what it did do is it made me really socially awkward. Like
Mm.
even more so than I had been before. So for most of my childhood, like all of elementary school, most of junior high, somewhat in high school, I got picked on. Like in a classroom of 30 kids, I was the lowest on, like the the pecking order. And that had a profound impact on how I do friendships and how
Mm.
I think about social circles. Um, yeah, it kind of, I've had to unlearn a lot of the emotional patterns of feeling like I'm being picked on or feeling like I'm um, being ostracized when then really in reality that's not happening at all. I will still see it even though it's not there. So I think that's probably what it affected in me the most. Um, but speaking of getting picked on and being ostracized and kind of, feeling shame, I wanted to talk about one of the Instagram posts that you put on the Mothership
Mm.
Collective's feed about this woman who was rock climbing in a harness specifically designed for pregnant bodies so that it won't, like cause damage if you sit down in the harness. And this conversation that's been happening around people coming to that with a lot of judgment, like how dare she be this far into her pregnancy and rock climbing outside, and kind of, I'm hearing a lot of, I don't know if this is a fair analogy, but like a lot of the same kind of commentary that people are talking, like bringing to the table about Lindsey Vonn being 40 years old and still wanting to compete in the Olympics. So like there's that, and like those are really people on the sidelines, people on their couch, but they carry some belief system, and yeah, like how that conversation and that belief system, like it's almost like a wave crashing up against like the jetty that the Mothership Collective is building, right?
Mhm.
So what can you tell us, yeah, just more about that post and how that conversation's been progressing?
Sure. Yeah, so for context, yeah, you gave great great analogy of like the climbing, and I don't know much about climbing gear, but like knowing that she's in a full body harness, like supporting her pregnant belly. This woman is 8 months pregnant and she's up on a climbing wall. She's laughing to herself. Um, and I knew that the photo was going to stir up some emotions. And for me, like creating the visibility around pregnant activities creates options for people. And so I welcomed the conversations that were going to come out of this. I did not realize it was going to go so viral. Basically, within like a week, I think there were like 8 million views of this maternity shoot. And initially, when it first got posted, all the Mothership Collective amazing community members were like, rah, rah, go, mama, you're crushing it. And then as it reached more people, the comment section got pretty nasty. I think I hid like 200 comments that I just thought were completely unnecessary, and also like trying to protect this amazing woman who shared her photo shoot with our community, which was very brave and opened herself up to a lot of criticism. But I left a lot of the negative ones on there because it gave us opportunity to sharpen our values. And I think a lot of times it's easy to say, like, ignore the haters. But I do think this was a good opportunity to show what the mothership is really all about. Um, some of the comments on there that stood out to me were like, she's so selfish. A lot of people were calling her crazy. Um, and just a lot of concerns around the safety of the baby. And so when we responded to that, for us, it's basically the issue is it just made people uncomfortable because they don't fully understand perhaps the activity, the risk level, the experience of this woman. Um it's really easy to pass quick judgment without knowing the full context of the situation. Um and so yeah, it was a great opportunity to address the haters directly and explain to them why we posted it, what we stand for, that we're not inviting women to be reckless with their bodies, especially while they're growing another human in their body. We're merely sharing experiences. And I think it's so important to be loud about what's possible in motherhood so that other women can feel empowered. Um, and show them how to modify, show them how to make it safe. So yeah, it was a wild, wild week of responding to people and hearing their thoughts.
The subject of the photo shoot, how did she handle it?
She was amazing. I immediately reached out to her and asked if she was okay and if we need to take it down or how we should handle it. And she was posting on her own Instagram and talking about how important it was to talk about risk assessment in pregnancy, and she was amazing. And when I proposed putting up another post with the same photo and calling out the specific negative comments, she was all for it. And she was like, this is why I shared this photo shoot, is because I want more women to see this. And amazing that it went viral. Great. Let's let the
Oh,
world
yeah.
see
Totally.
that this is being done safely and responsibly. And yeah, she was incredible.
Cool. Yeah, that's my kind of
Conversation.
person. Like, be the example to stir the pot. Yeah, kudos to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got some thoughts on this, but you two are moms. So I'm gonna turn it over to Kim first. I'm curious, Kim, like, what comes to mind for you, or how does this track with your experience in motherhood, but especially in pregnancy, kind of the pressures or judgments that you felt were being placed on you?
You know, I got to say, one of the weirder parts of pregnancy for me was I had lived a life of like combination intense extreme athlete and just queer. Like I felt really outside of the gender norm debate for a long time. I was like, I'm like feminine, like I don't know. I'm sort of, what is it called? Like a little in the dressing wise, like I don't really stand out, but I'm also just like not in the I just didn't have the same internal expectations, and the world didn't have the same expectations of me either. And all of a sudden became pregnant. And suddenly I was like hyper feminized. And I was like, wow, this is so this is what's been happening to everybody else for this long. Like I have definitely existed in a parallel universe. And now like, why is everybody holding the door for me? And like, why are people it was weird. Why are people like gingerly touching me and just like I mean, a lot of pregnant women deal with the like, why are they touching me, period. But I had the like, why are they touching me gently thing? Because I was so used to being like so rough and tumble and so strong and so like not needing gentleness. But I was treated as this like little egg, you know, like with a little shell. Like, and I was like, that's not me. Um, so I, you know, continued to lift heavy weights and do as much as I could. Really, it was like I could only run until about 4 or 5 months in, and but then I just continued to lift and walk and do whatever I could. But it was the gendery thing was really weird for me, and so the I relate to the experience of being like I'm just living my life. Y'all have changed how you see me. Haven't I just happen to be a lot bigger this way, and if I walk by you, I might hit your head with my belly. You know, if you're sitting down, like that was the weirdest. Like, oh, it's like spatially, I don't understand where I end and you begin because I've got inches this way.
Yeah.
A couple of awkward moments trying to sneak behind people in meetings, and just so
When
I
you
mean,
car doors, shutting a car,
yeah,
like your belly's in the way, or like
Oh,
hitting it on the counter while you're cooking. Like there's just
yeah. Yeah. And then also like really starting to the like pregnancy, I I had major body dysmorphia, major like nudophobia, and was just really like didn't really understand my body. I had all kinds of issues. serious vulnerability issues about like asking for help. I had a huge phobia of throwing up. Huge. Life altering. And then I didn't get sick during pregnancy, but like, I don't know, something about the whole experience. You're like, I don't have time for that anymore. I just don't have time for a phobia. 'Cause I have twins now. I was like, oh, that's a cute thing that I used to do.
Yeah.
And it really like, it changed me in ways that I didn't expect, but all of those things I cared so much less. And so I became somebody who cared a little bit less about needing to be outside of the binary and was like, I just don't have time to fine, see me as you are. I also can be really like feminine sometimes, I guess, in this like motherhood get up. And then I'll put on my like, I don't know, my sweatpants and like an A shirt, and I will look not like your feminine ideal mother. And so da da da. Da. That's what comes up for me in this whole discussion we're having is like the world changes how it sees you and it really F's with your head because you don't really internally change until it's slow. It's this like delayed catch up and there's the grieving and then there's the practice of mothering and all these things. But the world like does it instantly and you're like, I'm not there yet. Let me do this at my own pace, in my own way.
Mm.
And that's not everybody's story, but that was definitely mine. It sounds like this one too. I was like, I'm going to do it my own
Yeah. My husband and I always joke, we're like, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
way. Yeah.
Changed.
Yeah.
Did you ever have people come up to you in the gym as you were lifting heavy weights or anything? Or
Tell
like,
me not to.
yeah.
Well, yeah. And so did my spouse because she is, she's much more cautious than I am. And like when you get pregnant with twins, everyone's like, you are now a very high risk pregnancy. Like you have to be way more cautious. The risk of loss is exorbitantly higher. Like you got to keep these babies in. We were just like, keep them on the inside for as long as you can, no matter what, like grow those brains. And so it was like no risk is worth it. Just grow them for as long as you can. Because in our minds, it was like, I hope we get to 30 weeks, and just whatever it takes. Like, so you're going to be uncomfortable and have to like not do your crazy workouts for a couple months. You get babies that are alive at the end. Deal with it. And that was the message I was like operating with and the tension of like, but that's not my identity and I feel okay. And something about this just doesn't feel right. So it's hard when you're like, am I being completely selfish and reckless? Like you really do have these moments. And like,
Yeah.
I get why the commenters say it and why you start to internalize it and why the tension's there.
Yeah. I feel that tension, honestly. I mean, being pregnant again, I feel it every time I'm still snowboarding on powder days and stuff. And I still feel that when I go out of like, am I making the right decision for myself today? And I think that is the most important thing for me with pregnancy is like every pregnancy, every person's different, but like every day is different. And I think that is so key to having a good experience is assessing yourself daily. Like, am I feeling good enough to go do this hard workout? Or is it a day on the couch for me? Or like gentle yoga.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
also really crucial.
Mm. So a couple of thoughts came up for me thinking about these judgments. The first one is the reminder that, and we've maybe brought this up in a couple of other podcasts, but the reminder that when you are holding a harsh judgment about somebody else, it is a way of bypassing having an uncomfortable experience with yourself. So that woman is so reckless for getting on this rock climbing wall. I can't believe she would do that. Like, that's so selfish. If you couldn't have that judgment about her, what is the experience you would need to have with yourself instead? and it's probably an uncomfortable emotion. Instead of like having that uncomfortable emotion and understanding what it means about yourself reacting to that, you just go to the reaction and you make it about the other person. So that I think that's really shifted my thinking in the last 6 months. Anytime I hear somebody share a judgment, or anytime I hold a judgment, even about myself, if I couldn't judge myself, or if I couldn't judge this other person in this way, what is the experience I would need to have? But it's much easier and it's more empowering to feel judgment and anger, because anger is an empowering emotion. And then you make it about somebody else. So like, there's nothing wrong with me. You're what's wrong. You completely sidestep your own experience. But then the other two kind of more fuck you responses to that's so reckless and that's so selfish are exactly what you said, Julie. They don't understand what they're judging, and it's foreign to them. We are more likely to judge things that are unfamiliar. But for somebody who's like, that's so reckless, why would she do that? How many times did you drive pregnant while looking at your phone going 85 miles an hour down the freeway? And if you did that once,
That's a great
if
example.
you did that once, you don't get to judge this woman for going rock climbing, because it's actually much safer than what you were doing. So it's just like, well,
100%.
this is a thing that's normal and common and blah, 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 and feels familiar. Driving, everybody does it, but it's actually way more dangerous when you take a look at the objective risks and hazards and potential outcomes if something goes wrong and the probability of something going wrong, than going top rope rock climbing outside with all of the care and attention somebody would put into putting somebody who is pregnant on a rock climb. So the reckless judgment doesn't have ground. Like I would venture to guess 99.9% of the people who say that's reckless are being far more reckless in a more conventional way in their lives, and there's no room for them to hold that judgment without being hypocritical. Being selfish. Fundamentally, everything we do is selfish. Like, that's how we're wired. We literally eat food because we don't want to die. We sleep because we are, tired. We get love because we crave community and affection. We like oxytocin. We like serotonin. We like the dopamine of succeeding at something. So to say somebody is selfish, it's like, okay, same thing. How many times have you been selfish at somebody else's expense in your life? How many times have you been selfish at your own children's expense? And if you can say you've never done that, okay, then maybe stand on this judgment and like back it up. But there, I'm sure
If you've never done it, there's a whole bunch of other questions I got.
right. Yeah, like you're also not taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it just feels like it's not about being reckless and it's not about being selfish. And that judgment says a lot more about them and who they are as people than about this woman who decided to do a maternity shoot rock climbing.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's so much to unpack there in terms of unselfishness and motherhood and mom guilt, as people call it, and how being selfish at times is actually good for your relationships. And, with the Mothership, we're encouraging moms to take time for themselves if they can, because it's so important to step away, really for anyone in their lives, step away from whatever, partnership, job, whatever you're in, and have that space to feel like your most empowered self. And so, yeah, there's a level of selfishness that I actually encourage.
In our last episode, the one that we're actually releasing tomorrow, we talked about how people who are unable to ask to have their needs met and who feel guilty or who feel ashamed of having their needs met are, at least for me and Kim, those are people we have a hard time relating to. And it feels unsafe to be a friend to them, because it's like, well, if you have this dynamic with your own needs, it makes it harder to be in relationship with you. If you're going to be a mom and you have to set the example to a little one about how they need to stand up for themselves and having their needs met. I don't know that that's selfishness so much as it's just like, like being able to stand up for yourself and say that you need to take care of yourself and that sometimes you need to ask for other people to take care of you.
Totally. That's leading by example, in my opinion. Yeah.
Julie, I was going to ask you, like, as we start to think about like putting a bow on the podcast, but like, how do we want people to, what do we want people to take away from it? What are you doing differently? What does it feel like differently in this pregnancy versus the last one? Now that you've had the experience of leading this collective, and I think the real like what behind the question is, what could people look forward to if they had a better grasp on their the range of identities that they could possibly embody and community that could possibly hold them?
Hmm. Well, specifically for me,
Both your experience and like the broader. Yeah.
I think specifically in this pregnancy, I'm pregnant in a different season. So I was pregnant in summer, fall last time. This time it's winter. Um, Snowboarding pregnant scared me a lot more than bike. I'm much more of a mountain biker, and mountain biking pregnant feels very comfortable to me. Snowboarding feels risky to me. So I feel like I've definitely been referencing this gal I was mentioning. She wrote a blog about snowboarding pregnant. I've been referencing her blog as inspiration for myself a lot. But I will say I've been balancing self-care and being at the gym a bit more than being outside as much this pregnancy. Um, and I think for me, I'm just tuning into how I'm feeling. And if there's a day where I wake up and I just have a spidey sense that I don't feel comfortable being on my snowboard in the resort, I'm not going. And I'm trying really hard not to judge myself for that and feel weak for that. I'm someone who like loves type 2 sufferfesty things and to challenge myself. And
Type 2 Sufferfest? What is that?
type 2. It's basically like you're on an adventure that's pushing yourself and probably sucks a lot while you're in it, but then you step away from it and you get to the trailhead afterwards and you're like, wow, that was awesome, even though we suffered really hard through it.
What's type 1?
Type 1 is like, you're just there for fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
There's
three
actually
types of
I don't know
fun.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So type 1 is we're having fun while we're doing it, but it's a relatively unremarkable day. Like we went out, we had some fun, we came home. We won't be telling stories
Oh.
about today a year from now. Type 2 fun is we went out, wasn't fun while we were doing it, but once we're done, we're like, man, that was badass. That was really fun. And you remember it a year from now with your friends. You're like, oh, yeah, you remember that day? That was really sick. I'm glad we did that. Type 3
Yeah.
fun is it's not fun while you're doing it. And it's not fun to think about the fact that you did it and you don't want to go back and do it again. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
I'm not into the type 3. I'm a type 2 gal, but I've been working really hard at not judging myself for listening to my intuition, and really practicing what I preach with the mothership, which is like, do what makes you feel good, do the things you love and feel empowered doing them. Don't do them for like the ego of it, and don't do it because you feel like you need to do it. We're not here to like peer pressure people. It's really about, locking into what makes you feel your most goddess like. So yeah, for me, I think this pregnancy is a lot about judging myself less. And the mothership is helping me do that for sure.
I'm glad. I love that. If I were to do pregnancy again, I'm not going to. Um, that's what I'd want that too. Of like, I'd want to just be like, nobody knows the answer, Kim. You get to make up your own. And like, be cool with that.
Yeah.
That's
I will
awesome.
say I'm currently having a very cool experience in Tahoe, where it's such a small community that I'm meeting with all these different OBs, all these docs, and they know about the mothership. And I've had some very interesting dialogues with my doctor doctors, most extremely positive. And it's I had like an hour-long checkup the other day, which never happens, and we were just chatting about the rock climbing photo shoot and risk assessment and all the things. And it was really cool to talk to a doctor about how they felt about the mothership and whether they approved of the messages we're putting out there. Because I'm sure there are a lot of doctors who see the page and have concerns, which is not our intention, but such is life.
But even there's that dynamic of like, there's the doctors in Truckee who know about these outdoor experiences. They probably do these outdoor experiences. That's why you live in Truckee. And the conversations you're having about them are positive. And then there's a doctor that lives in the middle of a place that's flat for hundreds of miles in every direction. And that's a doctor who is, like poo-pooing it in some sense.
Yeah.
But it's also a doctor who, though they may be an expert as a doctor, don't have enough of an understanding of the activity itself to be able to pair the knowledge of the activity with their expertise of, being pregnant from a medical perspective.
Absolutely. And my doctor said to me, like, the moms in Tahoe are living very different lives, pregnancy lives, than a lot of other moms, and we try to like help them assess the risk versus saying at 16 weeks you're done biking or whatever the parameter might be that your doctor might put on you. And I think that's super cool that they understand that the moms here want to be active, and they're trying to help them be as safe as possible and keep doing the things they love.
Awesome. Mancho, what was this like for you?
It's fun. I know Julie. Julie is a great friend. In moving to Reno, Julie and her partner have been just like super welcoming. So it's been a cool opportunity to connect in a different way. And yeah, just to hear more about, a different side of, usually when we're hanging out, we're mountain biking, or we're, so like the stoke is high and we're talking about the activity, or we're, like melting about how cute her daughter is. So getting this opportunity to have a conversation with Julie has been really great.
I will say we did kind of get into some identity stuff when we were biking. We were climbing out of Scotts Flat the other day.
We did. Yeah. 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 I think I have a hard time not getting into those conversations. So thanks for, yeah, thanks for going there with me.
Awesome. Cool. Julie, this was an absolute pleasure. And I'm so glad the world has you.
Thank you so much for having me and making space for the conversation. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Right on.
Where can people find you?
So the best places to find us are Instagram, I would say, is our most active platform. We've got an email list. And new as of January, we launched a private Facebook community chat. I think I mentioned this earlier, but there's 1,200 women in there already, and it's so active. There's people asking about like, I want to go on a river trip with my 1-year-old. Who's done it before? Are there any moms in Salt Lake
Cool.
City? It's so
Oh
awesome.
my God.
Sharing tips and wanting to meet up in their city, and it's been very special so far. So highly recommend joining that as well.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, gals. Total
Great place
pleasure.
to end.
Thanks, you
Yep.
guys.
Yeah.